Hey guys, before we get started with this video, I just wanted to let you know that I have just updated my shop with a bunch of new prints from recent artwork and a few prints that I have been wanting to make for a while. It's a bit of a special update because it's also my birthday this week. So with my upcoming birthday, I have launched my very first sticker pack, which is the series of gouache eyes that I painted in a video a few months back and have always wanted to make as stickers, and I finally got to do it. And I'm also going to be doing something very special for you guys, and every order on my shop of $20 or more is going to receive this print with their order for free. So I'll leave the link to my shop down in the description, and you guys are more than welcome to check that out if you'd like. Alright, let's get on to the video. Hey guys, welcome to another video. It is finally time for my White Nights watercolor review. As you may know from a few videos I've mentioned these in the past, I have been using these watercolors for a little while. This initial footage was actually recorded a few months ago, and I have been using these paints and I'm finally ready to talk to you about them. I ordered individual half pans on eBay instead of getting a pre-made set, as I wanted to have more control over choosing specific colors myself. You can also get them on Jackson's website for a really good price as far as individual full pans go. As you can see, I have been using these paints for a few different things. I made a color chart, did my initial swatches, and I've painted a few things with them along the way, especially in this tiny little sketchbook that I've really been enjoying. These paints are pretty vibrant, the color payoff is pretty rich, and I've really been enjoying them so far. So while I swatch out the specific colors that I got, we'll talk about these paints. I have been wanting to try these out for a long time, but I was never really satisfied with the colors that were in the pre-made sets. But once I discovered a sort of cost-efficient way to choose my own colors, I was really excited about checking these out. And because I ordered them on eBay from a seller in Russia, it took about 3 months for the paints to arrive, and I definitely spent quite a lot of time waiting, but like I said, if you were to get these on Jackson's Art Supplies, you could get them much quicker than I did for just a little bit more, if time is an issue for you. I'll leave links to both of those sellers, the eBay seller as well as a link to Jackson's Art Supplies down in the description, as well as any other materials we used during this video. So as you can see from these swatches, the colors are super vibrant, and overall I'm really happy with the range that I chose. I usually go a little bit crazy in the warm brownish yellow colors, and I can never choose between Naples yellow and raw sienna, quinacridone gold, that whole realm, and I also got Indian yellow and red ochre this time around, and I technically don't need all of them, but I really love all of those colors for different applications. And even though, as you'll see in a second, that Naples yellow has a lot of pigments in it, I'm overall really happy with the selection that I chose. here you can see the specific colors that I got. I have lemon, Indian yellow, Naples yellow, scarlet, quinacridone rose, Indian gold, raw sienna, red ochre, green, bright blue, indanthrene blue, and Payne's gray. I've listed the pigments for each of those colors as well, except for Payne's gray, which I forgot somehow, but you can see those pigments here. The vibrancy and rich mass tone of these colors has been one of the primary reasons that I've been reaching for these colors recently, and as you may know, I've been experimenting with a lot of different subject matter, and these paints actually sometimes remind me of working with gouache, not necessarily in that they're particularly opaque, but that the rich color often leads me to want to just use bright, bold, rich strokes when working with them. In contrast with that idea, actually, is this painting. I was kind of easing myself back into portraits at this time, and I really was just missing working on portrait paintings, so I knew that I definitely wanted this video to be a portrait, but I immediately went back to that more hesitant way of working where I was laying in really light layers and slowly building up my color. So while in the end I still think that the values of this piece, especially in the skin tones, are very, very light, and they don't really show the full richness of these watercolors except for in the realm of perhaps like the eyes and the hair. I think that I was able to get those colors a bit deeper and a bit darker, and I am overall really happy with how this particular painting turned out. I personally didn't have any particular issues with mixing these colors as far as the colors getting muddy along the way, and I didn't notice any obvious opacity when working with them. The Naples yellow is probably the primary culprit of any issues that you might have with opacity, like the color being too opaque and not transparent enough when mixing, just because it's the one color that I got that is made up of 4 pigments, and one of them is white, so it's kind of gonna be more opaque, but that's okay. Especially if you're choosing your own colors, you don't have to pick that one. I just picked Naples yellow because it's kind of a go-to color for me, and if it was the only yellow I had the majority of the time in my work, I would be fine with that. But if I was going to pick one Naples yellow to work from any particular brand, it might actually be Sennelier's Naples Yellow Deep, which is actually a single pigment brown color that I really enjoy working with. And it's much more transparent than Naples Yellow from others brand, including this one here by White Knights. As far as that richness and vibrancy of color goes, I would say that these paints remind me a lot of M. Graham paints in that way, in that when you activate the color, the paints activate very easily, and they're very rich and very dense. And I would say that these are actually a bit easier to control as far as that saturation and pigment load goes than the M. Graham paints. I generally have an easier time controlling these paints than I do my M. Graham paints, which I also really, really love. I actually really like the fact that I used a lot of thin transparent washes for this particular piece, as it kind of just goes to show that you can use a lot of pigment at one time and go straight into those vibrant colors and have a really satisfying, rich result, or you can work in more transparent layers. And generally speaking, I really liked the way that these colors laid on top of each other and layered, and I wish that I could better balance this review by telling you guys something that I didn't like about these paints, but overall they were just really nice to work with. Because I ordered them in individual full pans, I ended up having to put them in my own tin, and I used my Schminke tin, and I took my Schminke paints out and put them in my Prima Marketing Decadent Pies tin, and I took those paints out and put them, they are now in like a mint tin or something like that. So I did end up having to get my own palette for these, but if you bought one of the pre-made sets, I'll leave a link to a couple that I'm particularly interested in as far as the pre-made sets go down in the description, so you guys can check those out. That would of course come with a palette with plenty of mixing space. I felt when working with these, even though I used a lot of Naples yellow in a lot of my mixes, if not pretty much all of them, I still found that the piece overall had a nice glow to it, and the white of the paper still shines through in a really nice way, and there's still quite a bit of transparency to them. I'm really hoping to learn more in the future about going in with deeper colors, especially in my skin tones right away. While I do like the glow that the natural white of the paper provides, and I get that by working slowly and carefully in layers, I usually tend to get burned out with pieces, and when I work in really slow, transparent layers, I tend to get sort of tired of working on specific pieces before I've built up a ton of depth of color. And I know that I could step away, take a break, come back to things a little bit later, and I did take breaks while working on this piece, but generally I don't have as much stamina when working on individual pieces, and I get to a point where once a piece has taken me longer than a certain amount of time, I start to lose connection with the concept as a whole, and I'm ready to move on to something else. So that's either something that I personally will work on in the future, or it's just part of my workflow, and either way, that's alright with me. I had the idea of adding this darker aspect to the piece from the very beginning when I was working on the initial sketch, and I ended up going with a bit more of like a science fiction vibe to this one overall, and I'm really happy that I did. I'm really satisfied with the direction that this piece went in, and it's a concept overall that I'm really happy with. I did want to give these darker markings a bit more depth, so I ended up taking my white gouache and mixing that in with a couple of colors to add some highlights and dimension to those markings. Overall, I really like these watercolors, and to be honest, I like to think of these review videos as more of a watercolor showcase than as more of a critical review. I really just want to show you things that I'm either really enjoying or not really enjoying and tell you my thoughts about them. I used the taping technique again where I tape on the back of the piece first, then flip it over and tape down the tape so that I can paint all the way out to the edges of my paper, and I've been really enjoying that lately. I know it makes pieces more difficult to frame, but it's just a look that I really enjoy. I also really liked the texture in the background because I wasn't really going for a super flat wash. So if you guys have any specific questions about these paints or your thoughts on them if you have tried them out, just let me know down in the comments. And I hope you guys have enjoyed taking a look at the paints I got and how I've been using them. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video, and I will see you all next time. Bye!